Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about the Argo SRV. Here's why. First off, I didn't play in like 2 weeks. I have some personal shit, and Star Citizen is not really the best game to play right now because the patch is completely broken. But yeah, like let's talk for the next few videos. I will talk about ships that are not released, but this one is close to being released because it is in production. So let me roll the intro and let's talk about it.
Hello, my name is Grumpy.
As you may know from my previous videos, and you just heard it in the intro, the Argo SRV is currently in production and its white box phase is complete. That only means that we're close to getting ship tractor beams in Star Citizen. When exactly, we really don't know. Ship tractor beams were supposed to be released in 3.18, but they're nowhere to be seen on the progress tracker or the roadmap anymore. Hopefully with the cargo system refactor we will get them too, but you never know with CAG, and I guess we'll see. Now let's talk about the SRV, or the Standard Recovery Vehicle. Even though its name doesn't fit its role, its key design role is to carry cargo, or those like 32 SU big boxes that you saw on the raft. So it's basically designed to unload and load ships such as the Hull series, for example. So most ships that carry those big 32 SU boxes on the outside will need an Argo SRV to load them up. Some ships will have their own tractor beams on the side, like the Merchantman and the Hull E, but even with those ships, having an SRV right there will speed up the process greatly. So think of it as having a friend that's just loading up cargo onto your ship, basically, and that's its main purpose. It will also be able to tow ships and ground vehicles that are similar to its size and weight, and it can do all of that even in a quantum jump. So it can basically move around everything that is physicalized, and that includes the mineable asteroids too. But the whole mechanic is mass-based, so if you're trying to tow something that greatly exceeds the maximum mass limit of the SRV, you will not be able to tow it. But if you had some help from enough people with other SRVs and tractor beams on ships, you will be able to move basically anything. As for a single SRV, the devs have stated that you will be able to pull or tow a Cutlass Black or even an Andromeda. So let's watch a short clip of John Crew talking about the Argo SRV.
In terms of vehicles, we've said sort of Cutlass is, in our minds, that's one-to-one. The Cutlass is where it can confidently do that in space and in atmosphere with gravity. Obviously, there's a million variables there. If the Cutlass is laden with 40, however many SU is of just the densest material known to mankind, that's going to be a harder job than, because the mass will affect it.
Right.
If we're in a planet or a moon that has 10 times gravity, that's going to affect it. But all things being equal, one SRV to sort of one Cutlass. So it can pull something that's bigger than it, but not humongously bigger. It's got a medium power plant, I believe. It's got some medium items in there because, like I said, it's all about the power. It's got big engines, like a tugboat of the modern world. It's a chassis with big engines attached to it to deal with that. The upper end for one ship, I would say, would be a Constellation, but that's probably going to be a hard job to do in atmosphere. In space, easier, no gravity, no friction.
Right.
But in atmosphere, it's going to be hard. And then obviously you can chain more ships together to do bigger things.
Now, the last thing that he said here is interesting because one of the uses for the SRV could be to help other bigger ships that are not supposed to land on moons, such as the Hull E, and then you get a swarm of SRVs to pick them up and try to get them off the ground and out of the gravity field of that said moon. Now, that's all science fiction at this point because we don't have a Hull E, we do not know how it's going to perform on moons, and in gravity fields it's probably going to be really bad, and we don't have the SRV, but you're probably thinking that this will be the perfect troll ship or the perfect ship for griefing because you will be able to steal other people's ships and vehicles. But in the Q&A, the devs have addressed that potential problem and said that the only way you will be able to tow a ship is if the towed ship has its shields down. So if you want to see your ship in the same place where you left it, just leave the shields powered on. If it's not there, your 50-ton ship probably got blown away by the wind, because that's still a thing, and they didn't even say that they're gonna fix that, so yeah. CAG, please fix that, because that's important. Anyway, that also means that you will not be able to steal someone's cargo from their Hull E, for example, because as far as I know, the shields are protecting all of the cargo that is stored on the outside. But if the shields are down, it's a fair game and you can start pickpocketing the big ships. But here's the thing, the Argo SRV does not have any weapons. Therefore, you will not be able to grief that easily. So it still has potential to troll, it still has potential for piracy, and I'll talk about that a bit later, but it's not gonna be easy if you're alone. It also has 10 SUs of cargo. While that isn't much, it opens new gameplay opportunities for the player. 10 SUs of storage will be sufficient enough to store ship components such as quantum drives, power plants, etc. So in the future you will be able to do some salvage with it, and it might as well be even more profitable than the Vulture. Here's why. While the Vulture can strip the hull of a ship, the SRV can carry a whole ship or just a portion of it and bring it to a reclaimer that will process it into scrap or materials. Now, there were some talks about the Vulture having to go to the refineries to refine its cargo before selling it to maximize the profit. And that brings us to the question of how the salvage gameplay is going to develop. If we had huge grinder pits on refinery stations, or even better on scrap yards around the verse, such as Brio's breaker yards on Daymar, for example, the Argo SRV would be the perfect salvage ship because it would tow smaller pieces of big ships or even whole medium ships and drop them into the pit for recycling. Now, I don't know if that's gonna be a thing. I have asked on forums, I have asked the questions to devs, but I didn't have any responses at all. But that would be perfect for the ship, because having a $150 concept ship that only does one thing and just like tows other ships and tows cargo and doesn't have any money earning potential on its own is just stupid. So if we had something like that, that would be amazing, because this ship would suddenly become the best salvage ship or the best medium salvage ship, because you can EVA from your ship with your salvage and cutting tools and just go to the derelict ship and then strip it for parts and get all the power plants and the shield generators and whatever is left inside, store that back into your Argo SRV, and then tow the hull and just drop it in the grinder pit. That is basically the same way that you're gonna salvage with the Vulture, because with the Vulture, of course, you will need to EVA out, strip the derelict ship for components, store the components in the back, and then you can do the hull stripping, and that's it. But I guess you could earn more money if you had a grinder pit. So CAG, please do answer this if you see the video, or just like make it, because that would be amazing if you just made a grinder pit for the SRV and all the similar ships. But of course, if you had a reclaimer or you have a friend with a reclaimer, you could potentially tow the derelict ships back to the reclaimer so it can use its own grinder pit to make those like salvage boxes or whatever they're gonna be. I guess they're gonna be like scrap SU boxes. Doesn't matter. The last thing I wanted to talk about is, of course, its utilization in piracy. If you're pirating medium ships, for example the raft, you would use the ship to bring the raft to a halt so you can board or ransom the target. If you're pirating larger ships with like 32 SU cargo crates and something goes wrong, such as the target not paying and you having to destroy them, those cargo crates, or at least the ones that survived, will scatter around and you will need to pick them up somehow. So that's where the Argo SRV comes into play. So in the end, should you buy the ship? I don't know. If you have disposable income, yes, but still, no, don't, because you can buy it in the game after, like, in the next patch, basically. So why would you spend your money? 150 bucks right now, it's not that much, but it's not cheap either for a gunless ship that just, like, tows other ships and that's it, or tows crates and all that. So Should you buy it? I have no idea. It's up to you. I wouldn't. Maybe, like, I wouldn't if I wasn't a YouTuber. Maybe I'm gonna get it so I can review it, and that's it. So that's my 2 cents. Anyway, thank you for watching, and thank you to all my patrons that are supporting the channel and supporting me buying ships to, like, review for you. And if you want to become a supporter, you can do it by clicking on the link down below in the info section of the video. And that's it. Thank you again, and don't forget to bring a towel when you're traveling through space, and bye.
Grumpy